Yep.
Oh, you love it, eh?
Here it is.
Welcome to the Academy series brought to you by Killer Moe's. Yeah, your boy Dan Smith.
Shout out, Killer Moe's.
Yes, and we are back with the next Academy series episode where we are here to educate you in the school of life so that you graduate with your diploma of how to do you.
Yeah, and it's going to be a light session, a light topic, light session. It's just porn.
Pornography.
It's just porn.
Pornography.
Yeah, it's your boy, the Lockdog.
And it's your boy, Danny Lloyd, the man that took the I out of addict and put the Y in you. And welcome back to another class where our subject matter today is very taboo to most men and maybe women, possibly.
Definitely taboo, and it's your topic. So I'm going to ask you about it because I know very little about the whole porn thing.
You know very little?
I just don't watch it, man.
Okay.
And like I said to you right before we hit record on this episode, I tried to watch an episode on Pornhub the other day. Guilty as charged. I got like a minute or two in and I'm like, this is absolute nonsense. Like, I don't understand the whole porn thing.
You don't understand it? That's good. Your mind hasn't been tainted by all of the things that go with it then. Unfortunately, a lot of men have had their minds tainted by this sickness, this addiction that is pornography, and it is very rife amongst young and old, and it's probably shot through the roof much more in the last couple of years due to our situation that happened over 2020 and 2021 and 2022, where people became much less able to be around each other and much more able to be on a screen to find connection. And that pretty much is what pornography is it's a lack of connection in a man's life or woman's, and you're seeking it from somewhere else.
So what do you think makes it addictive, apart from, like you've just said, connection, but do you think there's anything else about porn that actually makes it addictive? Because when I've looked on there, I couldn't really understand what it was that drives people back, because I couldn't wait to get away from it.
I think it's because it's not meant to be looked at and used and seen that makes it a typical human behavior that leads you towards, well, then I want to do it because it's not what I'm meant to do. Okay. I also think, if I'm completely honest, a lot of pornography overuse is driven by drug and alcohol abuse, and it goes kind of hand in hand, dependent on your mood and the drug you're taking. Look, it doesn't have a complete nonsensical place in the world. Like, there's pornography can be used with couples to enjoy, and it is an art form, I guess, and a lot of money is made in that industry. But, you know, sexually explicit material like pornography, it triggers these mirror neurons in the male brain.
Okay. And
these neurons, which are involved with the process of how to mimic a behavior, they contain a motor system that correlates to the planning out of a behavior. In the case of pornography, this mirror neuron system triggers the arousal, which leads to sexual tension and a need for an outlet. And the unfortunate reality is that you acted out the object you're focusing on, and it messes with God's plan, because that should be your wife. And you switch your wife for something on a screen because you're not paying attention to your relationship normally with yourself or with your partner. And so you switch out the reality for the fantasy, and then that becomes a loop in the brain. And I think, on my experience that I have had, because I've definitely suffered over my life at points with being attached to pornography far too much as an escape, especially on the crystal meth days, massive escape. And my experience was that it also drives this curiosity killed the cat type behavior where it's like, okay, so I've watched this pornography here on this level, but it's not enough now. It's like a drug, right? It's like meth. One weekend when you start out in your meth career using drug, you have a couple of points for the weekend. After a few weeks, it just doesn't get you the same effect. Like Hilltop Hoods talked about it, chase the feeling. So then you go from a couple of points to half a gram. And then it's half a gram for the weekend and an extra point on Monday to get you through work. Much the same with pornography. You come out at the entry level, just a normal man, woman, having sex, doing the things. And then that's not enough. And then you'll see men slowly graduate into, group sex, and then it's taboo sex, and it's rough sex, and it's all sorts of different levels to the brain being scrambled by so much overload.
Okay, so it's like this, you kind of go up a ladder of different categories into what some people would consider very
risky.
You need kind of help.
You need help, yeah. Pretty much. And so much like every human behavior, you're constantly pushing the boundaries of this situation. And look, at the end of the day, like, as I've always tried to do, and I always try and do, whether I'm doing the podcast, my lives, my social media stuff, or in our business and our public speaking, I'm not going to shy away and pretend I didn't do this. I'm going to open the space up and share all of the things that I did within reason. I'm not going to go into the detail, but so that we can talk about this, because this is not just, oh, Johnny, I know he's a dirty bastard, like he just watches porn. It's like, why does Johnny watch porn though? Ever ask yourselves that? Nah, he's just a dirty bastard, is he? Maybe Johnny doesn't know how to connect with a woman. Maybe Johnny doesn't know how to date a woman or talk to a woman, and he just wants connection because that's the innate human thing we all need, which drives addiction, by the way. And so Johnny, only connection he can get is on a screen.
Yeah. Do you think that porn actually has a healthy place?
I think the first way you should be able to arouse and stimulate yourself, even if it's self-pleasure, shouldn't be needing to use anything but your imagination.
Yeah, okay.
I think pornography has stolen the ability for men and women maybe to use their imagination to arouse and explore themselves. And I think that, like anything, I guess it has a place. I know couples and people enjoy it together. So fair enough. I'm sure it's very well used in the gay community and the LGBTQI community possibly as well. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not in that community. Yeah, I'm sure it has a place.
I definitely I see porn get quite a bad rap, and I think kind of like, substances, like we label everything, say meth abuse, marijuana abuse. So there has to be a line where it crosses over into abuse. So there must be a part of it where it actually could be an aid if it, when it's not problematic. Look, you think for someone that maybe can't actually find a partner and they might have some condition, and, everyone's entitled to some sexual outlet relief. I'm sure like everything, like there can be something therapeutic about it. And we do it today with like MDMA and stuff now. Like, it's been introduced into the therapy room in some countries, know, and it's taken that whole, it's just a bad thing out of the picture. It's like there is a healthy measurement to this.
There is, and I'm not saying there isn't. I can only go off of my experience, which is literally the opposite by the sounds of it to yours, which is that, as with most things, I did it to excess.
Yeah.
It warped my reality of intimacy completely.
Yeah.
It took me from being able to understand being sensual or intimate or close and exploring a partner to thinking it should be all of this hardcore, horrible shit and whatever. So it warped my reality as far as I'm concerned. I think it warps a lot of men's realities. I think they get attached to it so badly that when they come to be inside an actual relationship, they escape to porn because it's not enough, which means that their partner, whoever they may be, woman or man, or any of the aforementioned communities with the letters, aren't enough. And I think it's warped the reality of that. And now you can add into that, on top of pornography you watch, there's interactive porn where you can have sex cams, where you can you can pay money, and then you can pick a camera where someone's live on their laptop camera, and then you can have virtual sex on the camera. So that just drives you even further away from wanting to have to deal with an actual human being, where you could maybe talk to them, chat them up, and so forth. Then you add on top of that the fact that we've got to deal with all of the dating apps, which I think's taken away the beauty of courting a woman, or at least meeting each other face to face without having to meet them after doing all of the Tinder stuff.
Yeah.
I think our whole virtual reality has completely tainted our actual reality. I think everything has a place. In men, there are 5 primary chemicals involved in sexual arousal and response. Okay. The one that likely plays the most significant role in pornography addiction is dopamine.
Yeah.
Okay. So dopamine plays a major role in the brain system, which is responsible for reward-driven learning.
Yeah.
So I see porn, dopamine spikes, that's a reward. I've learned that's good for me. I'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
Make sense?
It does make sense, yeah.
So because erotic imagery triggers more dopamine than sex with a familiar partner, exposure to pornography leads to arousal addiction. So without pornography, most men now can't get aroused.
Yeah, so it is just that chasing the dopamine.
Yeah, it teaches the brain to prefer the image and become less satisfied with the real life sexual partners.
Yeah.
So you do that repeatedly over time. An actual beautiful, sexy, voluptuous woman in front of you, nothing. Without Viagra or some sort of pharmaceutical aid, but throw on a pornography on even a base level, straight away I'm ready to go. That's how it used to work in my head. And so men seek out a variety of new explicit sexual images rather than being satisfied with the same ones because of the it's called the Coolidge effect. It's attributed to something called the Coolidge effect, a phenomenon seen in mammalian species whereby males exhibit renewed sexual interest if introduced to new receptive sexual partners. Same principle. I see a new image, more racy, more sexy. I want to go to that and graduate to the next level of pornography.
Yeah, so that kind of goes into that
Coolidge effect.
Yeah, it goes into the argument that men are kind of here to spread the seed with multiple partners. Yeah,
correct.
Okay.
So, and that's called the Coolidge effect. So this neurological mechanism is one of the primary reasons for the abundance and addictiveness of internet pornography.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Here's one thing if you take nothing else away from this today, no matter your addiction, no matter what you're struggling with, ask yourself one question. When you're in a war, how do you win a war? Know your enemy.
Yeah.
I know some of this stuff that we're talking about because I've done nothing but know my enemy, so I can kill my enemy, banish my enemy, and win the war, not just the battle. Every day is the battle, but for the sake of forever, from now on, is the war.
Yeah. Have a chat with yourself. Is it a problem?
Pretty much, Overstimulation creates dopamine, receptors drop, loops are formed, and then it becomes safe and comfortable to watch pornography over being safe and comfortable to hold your partner's hand. It's a literal sickness in a lot of men right now across the world. It's not being talked about. No one wants to discuss it in relation to it being an issue mentally. It's just, you're a dirty bastard, you watch porn, or whatever it is that it's framed like. So yet again, another stigma, just like meth and all the other things. So we can't talk about it. We can't ask the question that men are suffering from this. And so, as always on this show, and as always for my poor mother, I will bare my soul so that others can feel like they're allowed to talk about their skeletons in the closet. Because they're only skeletons with no skin because you keep them in the closet away from the sunlight.
Yeah.
Bring them out. Let them walk around among us. Let's talk about the skeletons so they get brought to life and then they can die.
Yeah, just another problem like any other addiction.
Exactly. Men's exposure to sexually explicit material is correlated with social anxiety, depression, low motivation, erectile dysfunction, concentration problems, and negative self-perceptions such as penis envy and penis dysmorphia.
Yeah.
Because every one of these men you watch on pornography have been casted from thousands because of the size of their penis, the way it looks. And then they've got a team of fluffers who literally fluff the penis before each shoot. And then on top of that, you forget you're watching a fucking edited film. And so you think, old mate, you've just watched for an hour, actually does that for an hour. Does he fuck? He does that for a couple of minutes, stops, they retake, they re-edit, and they go through, creating, I'm not enoughism. My penis isn't big enough. I don't last long enough. Guess what? It's not reality, lads. It's not reality. Yeah? Show up for your woman, hold her hand, court her, hold the door out, pull the chair out, make love to her, make love to yourself. And don't worry about all the images because guess what? It actually creates a rupture in your brain where the pattern is so disconnected that you can't get aroused by anything other than watching pornography. Facts.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. So anyway, that's just a little brief lesson today on pornography and what it does so that we can start opening up the debate of discussing it more openly and understanding that men that have this issue, it's an actual issue. It's not a choice.
Yeah.
It's something they're using to escape pain.
That's also another issue, but we won't go into it. But it's not just men; it's teenage boys,
yes,
it's teenage women or girls. It's even kids that aren't yet in their teens exposed to porn and the warped reality that it paints.
Yep.
Yeah, and then there you are, 25. Not such a great sex life because you've spent 10 years watching porn and
exactly
14-inch willies and
all these things that aren't
orgies and all these things are meant to be the norm. And
yep, but they're not. And
then you show up in your relationship thinking you can perform like you've seen on the screen.
Yep.
That's not really sex. Sex is a two-person kind of act.
Yep.
Not really a porn performance. It's about what's right for one another.
Exactly. And I mean, unfortunately, we're living in a time as well where there's a lot of confusion around even sex, gender. What's this new thing? Oh, it's not even new. I probably just sound old. Polyamorous, where like the partner sharing and shit.
It's been around for a while.
Okay, my bad. I'm back in the box. But yeah, there's a lot out there that would overwhelm most people unless they're exposed to it or understand it. So if you're feeling overwhelmed in a sea full of uncertainty around all of these things, never fear, because Danny's here. And that sounds wrong.
Okay.
Anyway, my point being is that as always here on the Inside Outers podcast show, we try to bring out things that need to be discussed so that you can feel understood more. So hopefully that was a interesting episode on the Inside Outers Academy series, but I feel one that needed to be broached. I feel there's some golden little bits of diamond dust around that can be picked from that episode of things. Do you not agree there, Lockdog?
I definitely agree. And it makes sense after hearing it. It is just like using a drug, having a beer with the mates, whatever it is, it serves its purpose. And also comes with a lot of negative consequences if you abuse it, like everything in life.
And then it takes time to rewire the brain, but it is rewirable, and you are reconnectable to yourself. So it's not the be all and end all. If you have these challenges around pornography and you've been overstimulating your brain with it for years, just a case of rewiring, just like you wired it in the first place with the pornography. So, like I said, don't worry, it is all fixable. But there's a few little tidbits there to think about, both for men and women, around this situation.
Yeah, cool. And like every episode, if this is something you're dealing with, reach out, get help.
Correct.
Don't leave it.
Speak to a health professional or a beautiful person like me or the Lockdog, and discuss your options and understand how best to keep growing you.
InsideOutCoachingAndConsultancy.com. Check us out.
Exactly. And we'll see you next time for the next Academy Series episode. Thanks to Killer Maze for the sponsorship. And stay shiny, motherfuckers.